This is a Green Line train through 63rd and Cottage Grove.
Freedom School! Freedom School! F-O-E-M-R-I-N-I-N-G, good morning! Good morning!
It's the best thing that, Farming could ever have gotten was the Freedom School program. Because since she's been in there, her reading has enhanced a whole lot. And she just done got brighter since she's been with the Freedom School.
Good morning, good morning!
So we have a good morning chant that we sing to them. Some interns stay in the lunchroom.
I made a bear.
Did you? We just talk to the scholars as they come in, as they're eating breakfast, asking them about their night and how everything was. And it's really a lot of information that you can get from the scholars because, when we don't set ourselves apart and we make ourselves part of the group, they start to trust us. And, that's really important. My name is Tremel Goins Jr. This is my third year actually serving as a servant leader intern for Freedom School.
Children of color, not just African American children, poor children, children who live their social margins, are getting all kinds of messages from society and sometimes, often from their schools, that they don't belong, right? That they're not as important as other people. And so a part of what's most important about Freedom Schools is that culture of affirmation.
He attends the University of Chicago. And today he's reading the second half of the book we read yesterday.
I remember when you asked, what's the best gift in the whole wide world? I looked at you and knew the answer was right inside my heart.
After that, we have our Harambe. Harambe is a key Swahili term meaning to come together. So during that period, we have a motivational song. We have a read aloud guest every day. We do positive, affirming cheers and chants.
One of the most intriguing things for me is the way in which kids react to Harambe, and two things in Harambe. One is this whole, how's the song go? Something inside so strong, right? Kids get invested in that. You can just watch them sing that song, right? And go through all that stuff, right? The chants. They get deeply invested in this song which says, in effect, whatever your obstacles are, you have it in you to overcome them. One of the things that's striking, especially about urban students of color, is how much they have developed a put-down culture among themselves, right? They're cracking on each other from the time they get to school to the time they get left. And cracking means talking about their hair, their lips, their clothing, who owns how much, who has a daddy. It's one kind of insult after another. And recognition, I think, is a formalized way of moving the culture in the opposite direction, in which you have to say, I recognize so-and-so for having done something positive. And it's interesting the way in which once kids get the principle, they come up with the examples without further coaching from the adults.
What's your name? And where you look at? See a book, grab a book, read a book, hey! See a book, grab a book, read a book, hey!
But freedom brings me new worlds. Lord, I'm a stranger here. All my kin are down south.
A lot of scholars lose information over the summer, so part of it is getting them the reading skills that they need to stay on grade level or to maybe push them in a little bit further in advance, but a lot of it also is African American history. I've learned a lot of new things from working with the children from the books that we read. The stories have pictures of them in it, and they can relate to the people in the stories.
He was very ill. He beckoned them to come closer. Some slaves were freed by their owners. Henry's heart beat fast. Maybe the master would set him free.
The principals of our schools, and maybe the second year of the program, first or second year of the program, got together and tried to articulate what their goals were going to be. I mean, obviously you have goals for academic achievement, high school graduation, and college readiness, the academic stuff. But they very much wanted students who were more than just academically competent and technologically competent. That was something else we spent a lot of time talking about. They wanted students who had a certain kind of social competence, and they meant some very particular things by that. They meant students who thought of themselves as leaders, students who had the capacity to help other people, or to take responsibility right now while they're young people, for making their communities and their families better, and students who were comfortable with who they are in terms of their racial and ethnic heritage. Right? So that's, all of that is in our literature described as the promised child. And if you ask our principals, what are the goals of the Woodlawn Children's Promise community, they'll say, in addition to the academics and all the other, they'll say, we want to develop the promised child. And so Freedom Schools just fit immediately into that niche. Charlie Cobb is effectively the member of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, who invented the idea of the Freedom School. He developed that idea more than anybody else. So, and it's Cobb who says that in addition to pushing for the right to vote in 1964, we need to do something about the education of black children in the state of Mississippi. And in some ways, what he says, our concern is we need to have a kind of education that'll bring young people into the movement, right? That'll make them more aware, make them more socially critical. But then he also said, I wanted to quote, in our work we have had several concerns oriented around Mississippi Negro students, including the responsibility to fill an intellectual and creative vacuum in the lives of young Negro Mississippians and to get them to articulate their own desires, demands, and questions. More students need to stand up in classrooms around the state and ask their teachers a real question. So, all right, now that's Mississippi, December 1963. Right. If you fold that over to South Side, West Side of Chicago, 2012, still seems to me right, that our children never get a chance to articulate their desires, demands, and questions, right? What they're learning in classrooms is about everything other than themselves and their lives. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that the Freedom School is to be your school, about you and your priorities, that's as pertinent now. You can argue in a lot of real ways it's more pertinent, it's more important now because kids don't have some of the other kinds of supports now that they had when he was writing. How do you get children to see? They live in gang-infested, drug-infested neighborhoods. Now, how do they get to see the relationship between what's going on around them every day and the larger social political issues, right? The relationship between their rotting neighborhoods, if you will, and the rotting America. So all of that is to say that I think the kinds of things that Charlie Cobb and the other civil rights workers were trying to do with the Freedom Schools in '64 are at least as pertinent, as relevant to the lives of young people now as they were then.
All right.
My name is Maurice Blandon Sr. I have two children here, Tiffany, who is 8, and Noah, who is 6. Well, I'm here to go on a field trip. I promised my kids that I would go on a field trip with them. They have been really pressuring me, like, which one? And I told Miss Kendra that I would do a trip with the kids.
Too many of our kids, there's a sense in which they're not actually black. And they're not Southsiders, you know. You become, your social identity for most purposes becomes being a member of a group of 3 or 4 contiguous blocks, right? The blocks in which you are safe. And then the people who are just outside that, across the street, they become aliens. They become the enemy. So that's to say something about how inward-looking the inner city neighborhoods have become in the last 2 decades. So this was not so much the case when I came to Chicago in the 1960s. But what it means is that a great many children don't really feel that they are a part of a neighborhood, let alone a part of the city of Chicago.
Get a chance to experience some of the things that Chicago have to offer us, a lot of museums, and my kids, you know, I take them to museums, so this is kind of like an added bonus. Plus, it gets them out of the neighborhood, gives them something to do other than just playing video games and watching cartoons.
These guys are 2 days old. These are white leghorns, and these are the chickens that you buy the white eggs in the grocery store. They also are unique in the chicken world. They have favorite colors, like we do.
This is one of the many field trips that we are taking this summer here at the Museum of Science and Industry. We brought all of our scholars here to the trip. It's about 120 of them total. And it's really important for us to be able to take them out on excursions.
Hello, welcome to Brookfield Zoo.
A couple reasons. One, they get a chance to see the city of Chicago, get exposed to some of the things that they don't get a chance to normally see. A lot of our children spend a lot of time in their neighborhoods, on their block, and they only get a chance to see one thing. But when they come out on these excursions, they get a chance to see the rest of the city, which is pretty diverse, and get a lot of exposure. Number two, I think playing is something that's a huge part of children's development. They get a chance to be creative, they get a chance to play a lot, and it sparks their curiosity. And the more curious they are, the more that they want to discover new things, and then the more that they master new things, and it fuels their development in a really wonderful way.
For us, like, this is not just a trip to the zoo, so we're asking them relative questions, you know, like what type of food do they eat. So this trip for them is not just looking at the animals, but it's also very educative for them. So that aspect of it, I'm not sure if they would have done it without being in Freedom School. I'm just glad that they are able to do it.
What I come out of here with when I see these kids is that they're very happy.
They are very, very happy.
What contributes to that? I mean, what is it? Freedom School?
I think it's the Freedom School model. You know, Freedom School model, a lot of them experience negativity all school year round. You know, they experience some unfortunate things in their neighborhood. Some of them may be subjected to crime and things like that. So to be in this Freedom School atmosphere where the adults around you are positive, the children around you are positive, and it's just so happy, and everyone, you know, is in this free spirit, and it's all for the same purpose of us enjoying being with each other and also learning and growing together and teaching them how to advocate for themselves and how to make sure they're a part of the community.
It was good, but I imagined more stuff, but we didn't have enough time to go see a lot of exhibits that we wanted to see.
I think it was good because most of all we got to see the monkey, which was very cool because it was like we was traveling to like South America, to Asia to Africa. And I also like the big cats.
My name is Garrett Horn, and I am the project director for the Freedom Schools program. We actually have an entire communications system with Freedom Schools. One of the things that we talked about in our training with the staff is that we can only move as fast as we communicate. So we have to have crystal clear communication. And what we did is every day we have a morning huddle. So each of the sites would meet in the morning to just prep and get ready for the day. And then in the afternoon, after the day is over with.
So we'll get supplies. I mean, I think we should have our scholars help us, you know, take our rooms apart.
There was an afternoon debrief that each of the sites participated in. So that's where the team would come together. They would talk about their successes, talk about their challenges, talk about issues that need to be addressed. And then what we would do after that is the site coordinators would come and sit down with me every afternoon and just give me that information and let me know, here's an incident report, or here's an issue that needs to be addressed right away, you know, something that needs to be taken care of, whether it be supplies or, you know, communicating with the parent about an incident. I thought that it was helpful. At times it can become tedious as well, and a lot of times individuals are not used to talking so much and as much, you know, sometimes it can feel a little redundant, like we're talking about the same thing all the time, but it's better to be safe than sorry. And we want to make sure that if there's something that is really important that needs to be discussed, then we're creating an environment where that can happen. CDF, the Children's Defense Fund, is the organization that is pioneering, or not necessarily pioneering, but really spearheading this movement for Freedom Schools. The history of Freedom Schools, it goes as far back as 1964 and the Freedom School movement in the South. But now the Children's Defense Fund is taking that model and using it all over the country. So this summer, not only did we have a Freedom Schools program in Woodlawn in Chicago, but there were Freedom Schools programs all over the country. There's this huge national training every year for all of the servant leader interns, for all of the site coordinators and project directors that are working across the country. We all come together in one place at the historic Alex Haley Farm, which is in Clinton, Tennessee. We were trained on how to work with kids. We were trained in youth development. We were trained in the Freedom Schools curriculum, which is based on, it's a culturally relevant curriculum where kids are able to read books that relate to them. And the curriculum also works to produce some of the Common Core standards, which is something that's new with education right now. So we were trained in that. We were trained in how to deal with conflicts, how to build social and emotional learning skills, you know, just all things youth development and really teaching children how to read. That's the training that we received for 10 days, 10 long days in Clinton, Tennessee. And it was warm, it was hot, but it was very, very energetic. It was amazing just to see all of these people gathered in one place for one common purpose.
Stay the course until our children are set on a trajectory toward a hopeful future.
You know, we actually got a chance to meet Miss Edelman, Marion Wright Edelman, who is a longtime civil rights activist and a lawyer and an advocate for children, and she's the one who started the Children's Defense Fund. And we got a chance to meet her, take pictures with her, and just get inspired to do something great. I felt that there was a sense of common purpose, like we're all working towards the same thing. And we met a lot of the other servant leader interns and heard about their communities and heard about the struggles that they were having. And some of them are very, very much similar to what it is that we go through here in the city of Chicago. And it was really, it was refreshing to see that others are on the same page and that others are working towards the same thing.
Hi, you guys. I'm Shantae, as Miss Shayla just said, and this is Anita.
Miss Anita.
Miss Anita.
Yes. Freedom School Circus.
And I'm Chosen Doves. We have our different tribe names, so I'm Chosen Doves, and she's.
I am the Ringmasters, room 118, the Freedom School Circus.
I want to just update you guys on the different books that we've been reading, and this week's theme is I Can Make a Difference in My Country. So we've been reading books that deals with making a difference in your country and contributing to our country and serving our country in different ways.
I believe personally, and I think it is also the belief of WCPC, that parents are the first teachers, you know, and there needs to be a lot of work done to really align what's happening at the schoolhouse with what's happening at their house. And parents are the liaisons between that, you know. One of the high things on that list was career readiness, jobs that are available, that are out there, and just helping parents and families learn more about those opportunities. So that's what we prepared for you all today. I went to WPIC, the Woodlawn Employment Center, and talked with those folks over there and got some resources from them. So we're going to hand out a bunch of that information and talk about some of those things. The first thing that I want to give out is some resume tips. This is 44 tips to writing a good resume. And I want to if we empower the parents and put them in a better position to live life, you know, successfully and happily, you know, then that's going to naturally by default improve the lives of the children as well. And what we learned is that you can't just ask parents to come in and work and participate and get involved. You have to also help them with their real, tangible, felt needs that they have at home. And if you help them with the needs that they have at home, then they're more likely to want to get on board and participate and work with the program.
Same way that it's important to empower children and to give them a sense that they're in charge of their lives and that they can make a difference in their communities. It's even more powerful when you can do that as a two-generation strategy, if you will. If both parents and children are thinking about the ways in which they can make a difference.
And you should hear the really sophisticated dialogue that your scholars are engaged in around violence, around community, around what's positive about community, what's negative. They spoke with compassion, you know, talking about, well, people in the community who are on drugs are suffering, you know, here's why they're suffering. Yes, they engage in bad activities, but they probably have had a bad life. I was just really overwhelmed with the insight and the sharing and then the brainstorming around what's important, you know, how do we form a positive community? how do we make certain that we're not engaging in those behaviors? So it's really impressive. So if you have an opportunity to come in and observe one day the classrooms, you should do it, because I think you'd be really pleased. The scholars are amazing. And I thought they were much older. Listening to their dialogue, you would think that they were much older. I was so surprised to hear them just talking with one another about violence and how they deal with it, and why it's a negative. So I was impressed.
It's pretty useful. I got a lot of information tonight. Wasn't sure what was going to happen tonight because the first family night we just kind of took a tour of the class and kind of got introduced to everybody. So I was curious to see what this night was going to be about, and they gave me a lot of useful information.
Okay. That's great. That's great. Anybody else? How's Freedom School changing your child's life?
My son by decisionist, being mean to his brother, being a better child, not being by other kids, and learning responsibility.
That's great. That's great. These are really good testimonials. Say that again?
She picks up a book, and then she uses it.
She picks up a book. That's an awesome. And one of the big things we want to do with Freedom Schools is encourage the love of reading. Like, one of our chants is about, and I think it goes on to say, freeze, what's your name, and where your book at? Freeze, what's your name, and where your book at? So, I love that. That's one of my, that's one of my favorite chants. And that's, you should do that at home. Like, just randomly out of nowhere, just walk up to your child and say, freeze, what's your name, and where your book at? Like,
vote, you can change the nation. So I put, and then I drew this dove right here and put voting rights in, then I put carrying our rights away.
CDF, which is the Children's Defense Fund, the organization that we partner with, identified voter registration as the social action issue that we needed to be working on this year.
It says, voting is power.
The message that too many of our children get is that they don't matter. They don't matter. Right? You don't even have a daddy. Right? You don't live in a decent building. On and on and on. They get all these messages. So, some individually from people face to face, but a lot of them just from being in the environments that they're in, that they don't matter. And one way to know that you matter is to be able to make a change. And so that when you develop in children the idea that, no, if you don't like the things around you, at least some of those things you can make a significant and a meaningful difference too. It actually takes the kids who are most marginalized in our society, who are most excluded, and it makes them feel connected. I think children on the margins learn to be a part of society by fighting to change society.
So right now they're making signs that we're going to use on our community walk.
We focused on awareness. We focused on passing out information. We focused on getting the kids out into the community, going door to door and giving people information about what they can do to get registered to vote. We also had a component to that where we worked with the kids on teaching them about why it's important to vote, about how someone voting is their way of making their voice heard and telling the greater community what's important to them, telling our elected officials what's important to them. So we talked to the children about why that's important, and they really understood that.
I think it's real important because people everybody needs to have their says into what they think this country, how they think this country should be run.
May I talk? I think this is very important because we need to be the voice, and children need to be like a president too, so they can see how it's like. Voting is very important, and we are doing it to make sure people get the vote. They don't have to vote for Obama. They can vote for anybody they want to vote for. Voting.
I love it. I have no problem if they can have it Monday through Friday, 365 days a year. She would be in it.
I'm loving it, It's something definitely good for them to do during the summer, and, I'm loving it. They say they love it, and that's what's keeping me happy.
Freedom School, learning is fun, and that's what I want it to be. I want her to learn to love to read, which she does. I need to purchase a new library bookcase because her book collection has outgrown the one that we have, and I'm just really appreciative of this free program.
She loves it. She said they're always busy and active, and she likes the chants that they learn every day. Every day she comes home with a different chant that they learn at Freedom School. She got so many, to tell you the truth, I can't even recall all of them. But she loves the chants and interactions, and it's real active for her. So I have seen a difference in her. She seems to be more involved in this program, not just coming on a daily basis. She comes home every day, tells me what they did, what they learned. She seems to like the councils that they have here. So yeah, I've seen a difference in her besides her going to a regular school.
The higher you build your barriers, the taller I become. The farther you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can deny me, you can decide to turn your face away. No matter, 'cause there's something inside